Other reasons that people might choose to rent rather than buy might be that, that big hurdle that so many people face. And it is just so hard to save the deposit.
Mm.
It is so hard to gather that money. There are a lot of sacrifices that people need to be making in order to do that. And, to find that 20% or maybe a bit less if you choose to go with lender's mortgage insurance, it's a big, long haul for a lot of people to actually get to that point. And then once you've got to that point, sort of handing it, almost feeling like you're handing it over to somebody else to take away that 2 or 3 or 5 years that you've spent saving the deposit. That can be a sacrifice that some people are just not prepared to make.
And on the flip side of that, because there are government incentives, which we've spoken about in many other episodes, so go back and listen to them, particularly the deposit guarantee incentives. The federal government has a 5% deposit guarantee and a 2% for certain people. And, the risk with that is that you have to borrow a much higher proportion. And obviously, as interest rate rises, there's the affordability or otherwise of your repayment. So there's a reason to rent, particularly if the market's stagnant or falling. There's no urgency to get into it. Take your time to save that deposit up rather than trying to get in early, because, the more repayments that you have, and there's also the risk of actually having negative equity as well if prices are falling. So there's a very good reason to rent if you have not saved that amount of money.
And actually, just following on from that, you did an Elephant in the Room episode with Eliza Owen recently, where she mentioned that it actually now takes about 6 times annual income to buy a property. So that's roughly the calculation. Now, if you think about that, depending on where you are and what your property prices are, that's an awful lot to feel in terms of a long-term commitment for some people. And of course, sometimes generally it's cheaper to rent a similar property in an area to what you would have to pay to buy it. So you're sacrificing a lot of lifestyle if you choose to buy rather than rent.
And just to clarify that 6 times, that's just like the borrowing, and you're borrowing 6 times your annual income. So plus whatever you've saved to put forward. And that's quite a high ratio, particularly with interest rates rising. Whereas when the interest rates were lower, people were borrowing sort of on average a lower multiple of their income. And so it's risk, So I think that's the other thing. I guess that's what you're talking to there, is that some people are quite happy to take that risk if it's a multiple of 4 times what they're earning, whereas other people, as it gets higher, aren't. And only your future earning capacity. Whether you're at the beginning of your career and whether you're expected to get good bonuses, and as you get more experience and get promotions and all the rest of it, or whether you're you're at a plateaued or stage of your career where that's not necessarily going to be the case, or if you're about to have kids and there's dropped down to one income. So I mean, your circumstances, and so there's very good reasons that some people choose not to buy.